All right.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Welcome over 50 starting over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
And we just got back. I'm wearing my Asheville t-shirt from 2 years ago,
cool.
but we just got back again for the second time. And boy, I got wanted to just tell you, and I only just pulled this up and thought about it a second ago, but I wanted to share with you how we planned our trip. I did it all via Chat GPT.
You're kidding me.
Oh yeah, and I couldn't find fast enough the itinerary. I mean, I had it. First of all, I did my research to find the I narrowed it down to a five most intriguing areas within a 30 mile radius of Asheville. We don't want to be in downtown Asheville if we're to look at a retirement community, which is why we're looking. And so I found a few places that I'll say in general, we love North Carolina, and we love it.
It's a beautiful state. Yeah.
It feels like home to us. Lisa said, it feels very familiar. Like it feels like Ohio, but you got all these beautiful mountains everywhere. And we love the change of seasons, but it's, much better range. Not much of a winter.
It's more mild. Yeah.
It's very much more mild. And what I was initially concerned about the first time that we went down there was humidity, hot, humid summers. And as soon as we arrived, this is the first trip 2 years ago, we were early for our Airbnb. So what do we do? Of course, we went to a brewery, and there's a few locals there. Everybody's so friendly in North Carolina, everywhere we went. And so I said that to the first guy I met. I'm like, yeah, that's the only thing I'm concerned about are these hot, humid summers. He goes, not humid. We're in the mountains. The elevation is right, that it's low humidity. And I've done my research. It's true.
That totally makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So everything about it
typically arid.
We love it. We love it. So I wanted to show you, like, one of the first things I did was I screen capped some maps off of Google Maps so that we had a general idea. So this is Asheville proper right here. Weaverville's a big place. So I started doing my research on Chat. I asked it things about what are the most recommended spots. I asked it about price per acre, all these different things that I narrowed down so I could narrow down our search. We didn't make it to Weaverville this time, but we did last time. And that's a nice place. It's a popular place for people to move. Woodfin is where we stayed, our Airbnb. And so, yeah, it's
how many miles from downtown Asheville is that? It's hard to tell from the map.
To Woodfin, it basically is in pretty much downtown Asheville.
So it's like almost a couple miles.
Yeah, a couple miles. Right. Okay. All of these places, like Black Mountain. Oh God, we love Black Mountain. Our second time there, and it has a very vibrant downtown area, very much like what's it? Chagrin Falls.
Oh, I love Chagrin Falls.
In the mountains. It's
Chagrin Falls in the mountains.
Nice. Yeah, so cool, so cool. Fairview is an up and coming place, and it's really close to downtown Asheville. So in fact, it doesn't have much of a downtown, which is something that we didn't like. But they think of downtown Asheville as their downtown.
Gotcha.
Way over here, Lake Lure. That was a place of interest for us. It's got a lot of small town charm, but it's very kind of touristy. Chimney Rock right next to it in the Bat Cave right here. This is a cool touristy area. We had a lot of fun there. I highly recommend the trip there. Now, here's another thing that we said. Second time to Hendersonville. We love Hendersonville. Flat Rock down here is very cool. Very cool. It's like a high-end town in the woods, and whatever they do with their zoning, it's like they're not allowed to cut down a tree anywhere. It's just like this cool. They have restaurants that are barbecues, like that are called the Campground, and it's like a campground. It's a restaurant, and there's all these nice cars parked out there, and yet you would almost think you're in West Virginia in a way. It was just so cool, so cool. And Hendersonville is just a beautiful area. You should Google images on that. We just love the downtown area. You feel less like you're in the mountains in Hendersonville, though. But what we really fell in love with was Lake Junaluska, way over here.
Junaluska.
And no one knows about it. So don't tell anyone. And
You're kind of
It's
blowing it here.
it's not touristy. It's very much like kind of like retirement community oriented for a large part. And I just pulled up some images that I'm going to share with you. Let me find them here. Just a few. I have my own, but I didn't take the time to download them. And let me get back here. And God, did I send any to you when we were there?
No, I haven't seen anything.
Oh, I kind of thought I did. I have some beautiful images.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, it's
Love
so nice.
the
You would love it.
Changing seasons.
Yeah.
Now, did you see, was it fall like when you were
Barely.
down there? No,
it was
fall.
barely starting to turn. 2 years ago when we went there, it was peak fall. It was like towards the end of October. And oh, it was so beautiful. In fact, we went on that, is it Blue Ridge? There's a mountain highway. And that you can
the Blue Ridge Mountain Highway.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we did that for like a day. It was so beautiful. So
that's what I've heard.
Lake Junaluska is
wow. Look at that.
Yeah,
wow.
It's outstanding, man. It is outstanding, and no motorboats are allowed on the lake, which is like thank God for that. And we were on this pier right here.
Beautiful.
We had breakfast over here that morning.
How nice is that?
It was absolutely outstanding. Now they have just south of it, kind of attached to it, is a town called Waynesville, which has all the opportunity in the world. There's every kind of community in Waynesville, from absolutely rural to very high end. It's all mountainous. I will say, man, I got really tired of driving through those mountains because it's hairpin curves. To get up a mountain, you have to go and then roads are so narrow. There are so many times I'm like, my God, if somebody's coming the other way.
Yeah. What do you do?
Someone's going on. Yeah. We had.
I don't like to be the guy on the outside, right?
No,
you're tired when one tire goes over the edge.
There's so few guardrails, man. Yeah. I think it's, from what I've been told, when we were in the Rocky Mountains, we were told, because it's the same situation, that it's because when it snows, they need to be able to push the snow off the side of the hill.
Oh, well.
But my God, I just thought everywhere we went, there's got to be a lot of cars down at the bottom of this mountain right here.
Yeah, I know. I felt like that living in Colorado. I bet you if we looked over the edge, we'd see some old cars down there and some new ones.
Yes. So this picture here, I have some the first place that we arrived at was this cross right here. This is gigantic. It reminds me of that, in Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me of that. Yeah. Yeah, like people are smaller than the base of that.
I see. Okay.
And that's the first place that we arrived at. And I took a lot of pictures from here. And Lisa's like, this will totally sell Merle on this. As soon as we arrived at Lake Junaluska, Lisa said, I feel like I'm home. That was powerful. And
and
so she's like,
that's pretty wild.
She was very intent on, we have to sell Merle and Anne-Marie on this area. Well, and I got some great pictures, which
the weight of my heart is through Anne-Marie. So
there's we were standing in this very spot, and I pretty much took
really beautiful.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful area.
Yeah.
So let's just get on with the show here. I
so I noticed on your map that you had a lot of notes on there. With pricing for parcels of land, and I was kind of surprised because I was looking at a parcel of land up here. It was like an acre of land out in the desert, $500,000. It was less than an acre. And I was looking at some of the prices that you had right there, and they were like 1/10 of that cost.
Well, remember that the free chat GPT 3.5 hasn't been fed information since 2021. And in these last two, a lot of people think that
I thought the new version just came out, and it's a large language learning module like we've learned, which doesn't, is it? I'm not really sure. Like what I've heard here is that is that you and I have actually looked at this, where it's not like gathering information from the internet.
Correct.
It's almost learning from itself.
No, well, I bet it is at some point, but it's been fed information. So just imagine.
But it hasn't been fed since 21, you're saying?
Correct. So
okay.
If it were just on the internet, think about all the crappy information it's going to get on all these personal blogs and social media in all these different places. Some people believe this, some people believe that. But if you could control it and you're feeding it every medical journal that you can, all the legal manuals, all the entertainment channels, so you can get all of your pop culture and all of that.
Right.
But you're not feeding it all people's personal blogs and all of this stuff.
Right. Thank God.
You know,
thank God.
So you're feeding it all the real estate stuff. I mean, everything that you can think of, just not the crap.
I think your point, though, is that it hasn't been fed since 21, so those prices are reflecting older prices.
Think about how much property value in all of the U.S. has skyrocketed in the last 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's believe sick. Me, it has. Those are not current prices.
And I want to talk about that a little bit later in the show and how BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard are behind that whole effort and how crappy that whole thing is. But
it's killing the younger generation. That and car prices.
Every generation.
I just feel so bad for the young people.
I understand. The whole paradigm here in America has changed as a result. Hey, Barry, get this. This week, I got a text from somebody, and I was blown away about this ChatGPT. Just a little factoid here. Let's see, ChatGPT is a large language model that can generate. We already know that.
Sure.
It's powered by a huge network of computer processing units that consume a lot of energy. According to some sources, training ChatGPT use 1.287 gigawatt hours, which is roughly equivalent to the consumption of 120 homes for 1 year. Now it's kind of crazy because that 1 gigawatt, you can look at that a lot of different ways. Like for instance, this one says 1 gigawatt can power approximately 100,000 households for 1 year if they collectively consume 10 gigawatt hours each. In other words, this thing's using, so later on I find out per day it's using up about 1 gigawatt.
Wow, that's hard for me to.
It's all the processing power that, I mean, these wherever the computers using are to process this. Yeah,
everyone's using it.
And I mean, it doesn't surprise me because, God, I just used it this week and last week and the week before that, because you know we're putting together emails and quotes and all kinds of different marketing things, and boy, ChatGPT is like a miracle when it comes to that.
It's funny because I just gave a talk about this to the Beechwood Chamber a week or 2 weeks ago, and I warned them because I have a client that I just built his website and did his SEO and all. I pride myself on getting people prospects by having outstanding SEO, so they naturally, organically get found by people. But he put up like 20 blog posts in 2 weeks, and I went through them, and there's Google search tools. Okay. There's tools that I can go in and I see how Google is rating aspects of the site and stuff. And they're not archiving these blog posts at all because they're clearly just chat driven. I mean, 100%, you can spot a chat article like that because it's generic. There's not a real opinion to it. There's not a perspective to it. It's just like, here is what it is, whatever you asked it. It just lays it out as generically as possible.
Unless there is an unless on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's what I found on ChatGPT is that the more I put into it, the more data that I add to it, like
you got to refine it.
If I write an email, I'll write the email first.
Yes.
And put all the data in there. So if you make ChatGPT do all your work, I agree with you that you're going to get the generic thing. But if you do the work first and then you say,
that is my point.
Point it in this direction. I need it. I'm sending this to executives in this industry that think this. Here's my email. Cater it towards this, and then it uses that information. Sometimes, amazingly, it'll add very valuable information to it.
Yes.
But the way it formats the whole thing, there's a flow. It's almost like you're trying to create a song and it's kind of jumbly and all this kind of stuff, and it's not, the rhythm is off, and then you send it to that and it's all syncopated and it's smooth, and it's like, oh, that's a symphony now. But the more you put into it, the better.
You gotta refine it. No, for sure. To your point, about a week ago, I was to do an email for a solicitation, cold call email. And I did exactly what you said. I put the subject matter in there, who the target audience was, and it gave me 3 versions. It knew. It's like, oh, you want an email? Okay, here are 3 styles. It gave me 3 styles. I didn't even ask for it. Here's a story. Here's a storytelling point of view. Here's a direct sales point of view, and whatever the third one was. And it was kind of cool to be able to pick. And it gave me prospective titles, subjects, the whole thing. And so it was very useful. When I did the research for Asheville, the last thing I did was I said, we're going to be here from Thursday morning until Sunday morning. Please lay out my itinerary to see these 5 places. It gave me days. Yeah. In the morning, do this, have breakfast over here. In the afternoon, go see this, and make sure you consult a real estate agent. And then you have the evening to go have dinner wherever you want. And there was enough wiggle room in there. It was really good that
that's amazing.
We put in stuff into it. We did more than the itinerary. We saw more places than even we intended. It was really cool, man. That's really cool.
Really amazing. Now, I got a question for you. Between you and Lisa, when you go on vacation, because this is important. People vacation differently than everybody else.
We sure do.
So I have like my brother-in-law, Paul, if he goes someplace, man, it's like everything is timed. He's got to get up early. He's out all day. He's got to see everything. I mean, that's his personality. I don't have to see everything. And when I go on vacation, I like to relax. I like to just I want to go to the beach and sit on the beach and actually enjoy. You know what? I like reading. You know what I mean? Like a nice relaxing day on the beach, reading something or whatever. That's like my thing. And I don't like to have to. I will get up early if it's required, but when I get back from vacation, I like to feel like I'm recharged rather than exhausted. How about you?
The nice thing is Lisa and I are so on the same page.
That's so cool.
And we're both early to bed, early to rise people. We are not out late. I mean, we're usually home before dark, and we like to chill wherever we are at our Airbnb or whatever. And so we start early. And so we had that itinerary, and there's a lot of flexibility there. And I'm super flexible. I'm like, okay,
that's cool.
Yeah. Whatever you want to do, let me know, because maybe I'll go somewhere and do something.
Gotcha.
I don't care. And, so that's the way it worked. And
that's important. You guys have a plan. Yeah, I love that.
We eat early. We eat before, like when we're in Sarasota, we laugh. We're coming in, we're going home when the old people are even coming out. And you know how early old people. That's how early we are.
It's like Palm Springs, man.
Yeah. So
6:30, you better be getting ready for bed.
Yeah. We're usually home by about 7:30, no matter what we're doing, where we're at. And I like it that way. We both, like I said, we're on the same page, but we also like a framework. We generally know what we want to accomplish, but we have a lot of wiggle room in there for exploration, for spontaneity, and all of that.
Nice.
Yeah, it is.
Good
nice.
plan. Good plan. I got a friend of mine who he and his wife are opposite vacationers. So their plan, what they came up with was they rotate. So he has to see everything. He's one of those guys, and she likes to chill. So they'll pick a vacation for her, and it'll just be a chill vacation. The next vacation, and she's gonna accommodate him and just do the treadmill thing, and it works out for them.
That is good. I mean, because they're open-minded, and I'm sure that they both enjoy each other's vacation too.
I think so too. I think this is one of those things when you're first dating people, well, that should be like, hey, how do you like to vacation? Because you could get married and then this thing will be a mess, man.
Vacations are important. Yeah.
They really are.
But it's also what you just said there about them, about opposites attract. And I think there's a lot of merit to that, because it opens up your life a bit, because we can tend to be stuck in our own ways.
I totally agree. I mean, between Anne Marie and I, we're very opposite in many ways. And thank God.
Yeah. Sure.
And because she smooths out my areas of weakness, you know what I mean? Like she in all the areas that I'm weak, she's super strong. And and I'm so thankful for that. Although between us, it can be annoying. You know what I mean? Like
I know.
But it's like thank God annoying. You know what I mean?
Well, there's also the fact, if you're not challenging each other, you're not growing, and you're not.
True.
You know what? Your best partner is somebody that can say, you know, I don't like the way you handled that last night. You got to rethink that. And you're going to get defensive, and you may fight about it, but that's your best partner.
That's what's
somebody
healthy.
That makes you a better person. Yeah.
Gosh, I was watching a TV show, and the couple got into a big argument, and then she left, and the friend was there and was like, "Don't worry about it. The fact that you're arguing means there's still hope." You know,
true. Yep. You haven't given up.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that meant.
I thought.
All right, I got to tell you something. I had in my head I wanted to mention. Do you remember on our last podcast that we talked about mushrooms? Edible mushrooms, not psilocybin.
Yes.
Woo! Lisa watched the show and really took it to heart. We've been eating a lot of mushrooms. This morning I had an omelet. I sauteed mushrooms.
With the so good,
man. It's so good.
That. Yes.
She made
that was a really good section, by the way.
It was, and it's very helpful.
I got some feedback from friends that said, I'm going to eat my mushrooms.
Yeah, man.
Like, that was a really good one.
I saved the notes on that, and I just wanted to say 2 3/4 cup servings of cooked mushrooms weekly. That's not that much. Gives you a 50% lower risk of mild cognitive impairment, which is what usually precedes dementia. That's huge, man. I mean, they're so good for you, and they've been known to as an anti-inflammatory and antioxidant as well. So they're just really huge, and they taste so good. I forgot how good they could be. It added so much to that simple omelet.
It really does. And just the texture in your mouth and the different tastes. I mean, mushrooms, they're great.
Yeah. And so Lisa made some. So in Asheville at this one really great restaurant, we got mushroom burgers, and they were really good. So what they did, we read about them. They actually chopped them up fine, added garlic and some other stuff to them. I mean, Lisa she's like chef status.
I know she is. Yep.
And so she took that all to heart, and when we came back, she made mushroom burgers for us, and we're very good. So dice them up so much, and these other additives, which I don't remember what they are. I know garlic's one of them. I think throw some olive oil in there, breadcrumbs as well, and then you make patties out of them from there. And really good, really good, super healthy for you. So again, try to I've had a couple of burgers since then. Make sure I got the mushroom and onion on there too, you know. Stock up on the mushrooms. They're super good for you.
Hey, that's pretty cool. I love that. Hey, I want to follow up from that same show where I talked about all the uses of toothpaste. And, and just a testimonial. I used it on my wedding ring. Right, and it's like a new ring. Now I couldn't believe.
How'd you apply it? A rag?
Okay, so I just took a piece of tissue and I put a dab of toothpaste on it, and then I just put my ring in there and rubbed on it, and all this black stuff came off of it, and it was super shiny after that, and it smelled really good. And then here's the second one. I was telling you that last year mosquitoes were just ferocious, and this year not so much. But within the last couple of weeks, they've come out, and I've gotten bitten down below my knees. That's where they get you, and they're super itchy. I put a dab of toothpaste on a mosquito bite. It was, for me, kind of miraculous. The swelling went down.
I could see that
pretty quickly. all the red inflammation went away, and it stopped itching, and I was pretty much done with it. The only problem is it's like calamine lotion. You got a big like toothpaste mark on your leg or whatever, you know.
Okay, but I'll bet you that it pulls the venom out. There's a little tiny bit of venom in there. That's what makes it itch. I'll bet you it pulls it out. Yeah,
and so yeah, and I hate that, you know, like what happens with these mosquitoes when they bite you, you scratch so much that you basically injure yourself scratching.
And I do that.
So this is a really good one. Anyhow, try it out, see if it works. Anne Marie tried it. She said it didn't really work for her. So I don't know. It could have been my own mental
placebo effect.
Yeah, it could have been.
Could have been. I doubt it. I could see that working for that.
Yeah. It was interesting. So anyhow, just a little coming full circle on that whole thing.
Look at Charlie. Look at it, for those listening. Charlie he likes
What's going on over there?
Prop himself up and look out the window. You're supposed to always say to dogs, 4 on the floor at all times. Don't let them jump on things. But it's so cute. You can't stand it. I know, right? There's deer out there a lot, and I have pictures. I've taken pictures of him watching the deer out from the window outside and stuff.
That's really cool.
Buddy, I got some serious stuff to talk about today.
Let's talk.
And it's sad, and it's just so important though. We had a death about 12 days ago of Lisa's nephew, and he was 24 years old, OD'd again. Not the first time, and this time he passed. About 3 or 4 years ago, I lost a cousin in the same way, and both were very identical. They were both like high school football stars, bright-eyed kids, super lovable. Everybody loved them. And in both cases, it seems to me like when they hit that age, about 15, and they smoke their first joint or have their first beer or something, boom, this addiction gene kicked in. And overnight, they were stealing and doing time for felonies and things like that to feed the addiction, which became heroin. And I'll tell you what, that damn Sackler family has a lot to do with the heroin epidemic in this country, selling that legalized heroin known as Oxycontin and getting everybody addicted to it. And they have so many deaths on their hands, and most of us have a family member that's been a victim. And in this case, it's horrible. And in this case, the family very fractured anyway. A lot of divorces and a lot of people that don't talk to each other, and so there's just a lot of blame going on. And this is a time, this kind of a tragedy should be a time when you have more forgiveness in your heart. There's so much hurt going around that you should come together a little more rather than push away more. And there's a lot of pushing right there. There's so much blame going on. And I find blame to be about the most destructive thing out there. It is the killer of all families. And you know what it's exactly the opposite of is self-accountability. And so, we're all imperfect. None of us have been perfect parents. Those of us that are parents, we've never been perfect. And we try to get better. We should all try to be getting better. That's what this show's about. We're always trying to improve, and that's what this is about. And the amount of blame going on, it tears families apart. And I know a lot of families, a lot of different friends that are always blaming another family member, and they don't speak. And I know a son and daughter that don't speak to their father because of the toxicity created by the mother. And they're your kids' age. I say kids in quotes, they're 30-ish. And by this time, we should be taking, I'm telling you, if you are in blame, you're not sleeping well at night. Because subconsciously, that you're not forgiving. It's the opposite of forgiveness. You're holding hatred in your heart. And you're actually accusing somebody else of being, you're better than them, that you can judge and condemn them. And I just think that this is toxic. And Merle, you said to me, I said to you last night in a text that we would talk about this. And you mentioned to me that you had the same experience around your father's death.
It wasn't my father's death. It was on my father's side of the family. I'll just say this: you're touching on a subject of forgiveness right now, and
yes, it's a difficult concept.
It's very difficult because we have these deep feelings inside of us, and especially when there's a tragedy and there's grief involved. We feel almost like we've lost control of our brain, and the thoughts that come out sometimes are uncontrollable, and so it's a terrible time. We feel condemned inside of ourselves, and therefore we need to find a way to offload that pain, and many times the way we offload it is by putting it on somebody else. In other words, blaming it on somebody else. Yes. And a lot of times what we do is we reflect our own guilt, and we transfer it to somebody else, and now we're angry at them, and this can break up families. I've heard it said this way, that unforgiveness is like drinking poison. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
That's interesting. I've heard this. Revenge. If you're out for revenge, and that's like unforgiveness, it's blaming. Okay, you want to thrash out at somebody, right. and so it's like revenge. If you want to get revenge on somebody, you better dig 2 graves, one for you and one for them.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, because it's going to consume you. And this is really what happens. And one of the things that I thought of last night when you were posing this to me was that the whole concept of forgiveness, and it seems to me that in our world that people believe that forgiveness is actually an emotion. Like, I feel forgiveness for you.
I feel so
I'm going to give you I'm going to give you my forgiveness.
That's interesting.
The interesting thing about forgiveness is that it's really not an emotion. It's a willful decision.
I think it's a rationalization.
You have to make a decision whether or not you're going to forgive. That doesn't mean that you have feelings of forgiveness. It's almost like a legal thing. Whether you are guilty or innocent, you're making a judgment, and the judgment is to forgive. But it's regardless of your feelings. The feelings when you forgive, it's an interesting thing, is when you decide to forgive, what happens is eventually the feelings start to fill in. That it's almost like you've opened up a gate so that the forgiveness feelings can start to seep in. But usually it doesn't happen immediately. And
agreed.
And you've got to have, and you really got to train yourself on this.
Yes.
It's character. The worse it gets, the higher amount of character you need in order to forgive. But I'll tell you, a real secret here is to think about all the shortcomings that you have in your own life.
There you go.
I have them.
It's humility.
I have, if I ever get into an argument with my wife, I want to forgive instantly, because I've screwed up so much, and I want her to forgive me instantly. And then the fact is that there's this thing called the golden rule, and you want to
no one knows it.
Yeah, but we should talk about it more, because I want to be treated. I want to be treated in a certain way. So I should treat people in the way that I want to be treated, so that I can receive that kind of treatment. Agreed. And it seems to me that forgiveness and love go hand in hand. The more forgiveness that's there, the more love that's there, the more family loyalty that's there.
There you go.
It's an amazing thing. So it seems like in this situation with the family, biting the bullet, and by doing that, thinking of your own stuff, because we've all fallen short. None of us are squeaky clean on this. We all have crap in our background.
Yeah, we do.
And I don't want to be held to that. I that's not who I am.
Right.
But the thing is that when we get into we all get into these situations where we feel unforgiveness, and I think that the wise thing to do in the situation is try to think about the outcome you're looking to have, because this whole feeling of unforgiveness, that you really are, the way that I am personally, I want to use my anger to get a certain result. But logically, and this is all emotion, not logic, logically thinking, the anger is never going to bring me to that resolve.
Correct.
Only forgiveness is going to bring you positive results. And so thinking about the future is really important. Now I'll turn to my father's side and his story. He was one of the youngest of several children, and they had a big family, and but it was sort of separated because they had the last two children later in life. So they were kind of brought up separately from the rest of the family. My father and his younger sister. My dad's father had left the family early on, so he was tasked with taking care of his mother, and he had this relationship with her that was very strong. And he ended up being the first one to go to college. He got a scholarship, and his mother was greatly behind that, encouraging him. I guess there was an agreement in the family that if anything were to happen to mom, to call him. And what happened while he was away at school was she ended up getting sick and going to the hospital, and all the siblings surrounded her, and they decided not to call my father because he was in school, and they thought she would get better, and they didn't want to distract him. That's not how it worked out. She passed away. And when he found out about it, he was fit to be tied. And he was so angry at the family that he was in unforgiveness for many, many years, decades. Wow. And as a result, I never really got to know many of my my aunts and uncles. And I after my dad had passed away, now, towards the end of his life, he made amends with his family, and he had become a Christian and really understood this forgiveness thing. But there's a lot of damage that had already been done. And I remember being at my uncle Lucky's house, that's his nickname. And this was many years after my dad passed away. And my dad wouldn't tell me. I had no idea why they were like this. He wouldn't even talk about it. So that was another part of it, was that this is destructive.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about it. This was shortly before he died. And man, he was crying and talking about how sorry he was for something that had happened like 40 some years before that, and how devastating that was. And this is why I say we really need to, if we're in the moment in situations like your family is right now, think about the outcome that you're looking for, because these decisions that were made 40, 50 years ago had long roots of pain and misery because of unforgiveness. It didn't have to be that way. Putting down your pride and forgiving is so healing, and it heals yourself first and foremost.
Yes, it does.
And so it's the salve to put on the wound that you have right now. Put on forgiveness, and you'll be well again. And
very true.
It is amazing how that works.
I want to go back to the beginning where you started talking about, you said forgiveness is not an emotion. I think that was a really good point. And when you are in the middle of this, as we are right now, and people are making their phone calls and sending their texts and trying to find alliances against another person in the family, it's like a little form of cancel culture. It's toxic. And you can choose, and if you see it as such, if you have that awareness, you're going to get triggered. Now you're emotional. But I seem like I say this every podcast now, but that's a sympathetic nervous system gets triggered, fight or flight. Your emotions get, okay, now you need to get to the parasympathetic. That's where you find your forgiveness. That's where you find your rationalization. And to your point, just don't participate in the toxicity is what I'm trying to say. Forgiveness will come after that. But first, just don't participate in the toxicity. You're right. Somebody's trying to hand it off to you. And it's like, it multiplies. It squares itself. Don't participate in it. And you're going to take a lot of shots. You're going to eat a lot of crap, but you can get over it. It's about, you said, it's about a character that you have, and it's true, but you can help people heal by taking those shots and letting them calm down and letting them see what they put out there all on their own. And if they come to, and if they see, and if they can heal a bit themselves, then that's great. If they can't, then reduce your exposure to that person. Let's not go into the cancel mode and try to get everybody else on your team. Okay, don't do that. That's very divisive. I'm just saying, when someone is really toxic, we all know toxic people. You have to reduce your exposure to them. And to the degree that you do, that's up to that toxic person. No, you're going to take some shots when you're around them, right? Just don't participate. Don't get sucked in.
You know, as you're talking, Barry, I'm just thinking about my father again, and how, you know, he had this unforgiving. It wasn't just that. There were other things too about the way that he was brought up in West Virginia, and just how he wasn't allowed to go to school for a couple of years until Brown versus the Board of Education.
Oh, right.
Very, very prejudiced kind of a situation that he was brought up in. And, you know, as I was growing up and seeing him, my dad was a great guy, had a great sense of humor, but it just seemed like he was carrying a sword all the time. You know what I mean? Like ready to, you know, and his life was one of attack. Even his job, you know, he rose to the top of Ameritech, but it was by fighting the whole time. And he became this Christian later in life and learned about actual forgiveness, and that was his mantra that he walked around with. And let me tell you, Barry, that changed him dramatically.
I know.
His whole countenance, his face, he had that nice, like, what do you call it, when he's Radiance. At rest, he had a joy on his face.
Yeah,
he didn't have that before. He's like, at rest, he seemed like he's still gonna stab you, you know. And he walked around with this joy and this happiness, but the root of it was in forgiveness. And I think it was him learning that he himself had been forgiven by God. And that's really what the Christian faith is first and foremost, that God has forgiven you for all of your trespasses. And then once you realize that you've been forgiven, then you can pass that forgiveness on to other people. It appears to me that our human nature is that when we're in unforgiveness about something that we ourselves have done, like, have you ever been in a situation where you can't even forgive yourself?
Yeah,
those tend to be the things that we're most critical of on other people.
For sure. We hate the things that we see in other people that remind us of the things we hate about ourselves.
So there it is, Barry. So that when you realize that you yourself are forgiven, then you have the capacity to pass that on to other people. Now, I know that there's faith in the family, and sometimes we have to be reminded of our faith. You know, I know Lisa's family is a Christian family, and sometimes we have to be reminded on who we are. We're children of God. We're forgiven by Christ. And if I'm forgiven, how dare I have unforgiveness towards other people? It says in the Bible that forgive so that you'll be forgiven. And so it's the same concept as love. We've got to know that we are loved in order to pass that same kind of love to other people. It's
you know,
in order to have that capacity. I don't know. These are just things that I've learned the hard way.
Yeah, I totally understand. I wonder where the lack of faith is, how the lack of faith is showing up here in people that consider themselves Christian. But I also know, like you were saying about your father, that there's a lot of like raw nerves. In this, there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of hurt.
I am not saying lack of faith. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that sometimes we have to stir up our faith. You know, because it's like It's just like that glass of water, that had a bunch of floaties in it, and then you leave it alone, it all floats down to the bottom, right? And you just get to stir. You got to stir. That's your faith. You got to stir it up in there. You know what I mean? Remind yourself of who you are, and remind yourself of what Christ has done for you. The more we remind ourselves, let me just give you an example, and I won't give you details, but there was a few nights ago, I was so angry about something, and I thought about how I was guilty of the same thing, and then I wasn't so angry anymore. You know what I mean?
It's that's very true. What you just said, you said it so simply, yet there was a lot there to be able to self-reflect, and that's what's not going on here. That's what's not going on when you're blaming. When you're in blame mode, is you're not self-reflecting at all. There's no humility there. There's an arrogance to it.
No, it's pride is what really at the root of it. Your pride is eating you alive right there, because you think your stuff is, you're high and mighty, but this person has destroyed your life, and it's like, wait, no, that's really the bottom line is we're all responsible for our own feelings. And we can control what we think about it. I mean, that is not a popular statement right there, but that is the absolute truth. We can control what we think about, and we need to control what we think about so that we keep ourselves in that. It's okay to have emotions, but you got to have a balance with your logic and emotions. You got to ride that line. We can't be all logical or all emotion. We get in the ditch that way.
I know of a friend that he and his brother, I think it's a family thing, they battle their addictions, and they're in their 60s, and they go online on Facebook and say the most horrible things to each other.
Isn't that horrible?
Absolutely horrible. I've talked to him about this, and it's all blame, blame, blame. It's him. And I always say, but you're doing the exact same thing. You're both behaving exactly the same, which infuriates him. But it's the absolute truth.
He's in the syndrome, because he's in that emotional syndrome.
In these families, it's always the same. You're all behaving exactly the same. And the only way to stop the cycle is that awareness that you really got to have an aha moment of clarity, see it, and decide, because I've been here, Merle, and decide I'm not going to participate in that anymore. And that means you're going to take a lot of shots for a long time as they try to push your buttons, because then it's a we thing. They're blaming and they're trying to engage you. And when they come to the realization that they can't engage you, they just have a whole lot of this toxic content out there, and it's all one-sided. Eventually they have to see that, and they have to take a look inward. They have to say, I'm doing this. And it's not we. He's not doing it. I'm doing it.
And that's the thing, is that if we, taking that high road that you just talked about,
it's hard.
Is super hard. And all you got to do is, you could be doing it for a year and then fail once and you've ruined the whole thing.
I did it for 10. I did it for 10 years.
Yeah. So that's a tough thing. And one thing I've seen too is that it really takes, if the group of people, if family members mad at each other in unforgiveness, you get that one person that gets into forgiveness. It can really be infecting, that starts to actually permeate.
Dude, so I'm not going to go into details, but I'm going to tell you, you are exactly right. You are exactly right. I've seen an entire family about face change 100%.
I've seen it too. I've seen it too. And it's and when that happens, it's so beautiful that it's almost better that the bad thing happened, because when you get to the forgiveness part, the family's actually closer than they were before.
You're exactly right again. You are. This is a very valuable conversation. And guys, I hope, I know if you're somebody that's in blame mode, this is falling on deaf ears. But if you're somebody that wants to get out of that hurt, blame is hurt. I mean, it's okay. There's your key. You're going to have to take some shots. You're going to have to but you got to have the awareness first. You got to see it for what it is.
And this is what working on relationships is. We're constantly, it's like your house. You don't just work on your house and it's one and done. You're always having to work on your house, right?
That's just
how it goes. And, this is what how we build. It's like working out. It's we have to build our strong relationships, and then we have to maintain these relationships. And forgiveness is how we do this. I think about our friendship, Barry. You know, we've been friends for what, 50 years? It seems like it seems like it, you know, like we've been, it's almost like I can't remember a time when we weren't friends.
Very true. Very true.
But you know, that our friendship, we've invested in our friendship. I mean, big time. And we've had conflict, and our own conflicts have made us closer together. And
I learned so much from you.
I've learned so much from you, and you know, and I think about some of the how we met. I mean, we met, and that's the funniest part, is the first day we met. I mean, I don't know if it was the first day we met. It was the first day we hung out. It ended up where we were wrestling each other.
Of course, of course.
And it was just like our friendship was formed in conflict, you know. And it's just like such a cool thing that it's made our whole relationship so strong and forever.
Yeah, there was when we were at Lake Junaluska, Lisa made a comment at some point, and I forget the context. But she was like, "Oh my God, if we actually got out here with Merlin and Marie, you two better not end up in that lake wrestling."
I can't promise you, Lisa.
Very true.
All up to Barry.
Yeah, right. Blame.
Yep.
Okay, anyway. Buddy. I wanted to also just mention too about the addiction and dealing with addiction from a family member's point of view. There's nothing harder, because it's a tightrope walk between unconditional love and enabling. And you're never going to be right for very long. You're going to be right for about 5 minutes when that pendulum swings right there in the middle. Because then when you start doing the unconditional love, it'll turn into enabling. Then you're going to get taken advantage of. Then you got to go into tough love. It's hard to do, but there's no recipe for doing the right thing. You're always going to be wrong. So when things go south, and God forbid there's an OD, there's an arrest, there's all of that. There's a lot of hurt going on in that family. And it's easy to blame somebody because you're always wrong. You're doing that tightrope walk. You're never right.
You know, when you think about addiction, the thing about it is it's so devilish. I mean, it's like it uses your love against you. Yes. You know what I mean? Because like what you're saying, you love this person. You don't want this person to be hurt. And at the same time, you need to help them. And sometimes it takes tough love, but they don't want tough love. I mean, the whole thing is it's a plague of evil is what it seems like. It's a quagmire. How do you get out of it? And forgiveness again is a huge thing. But I also see this, that people try to deal with this on their own. There's a pride thing involved in this as well. And for the person that's not the addicted person, it's the person that loves an addicted person. You're codependent. And it's almost like you have the sickness too. It's another form of the sickness, and you need a doctor. You can't, if you try to solve this on your own, you're going to do the things that seem naturally logical, and that's where you're going to screw it all up.
You're right. And by the way, there's a support group related to AA. It's called Al-Anon. It's a support group for these people that you get to, in a room, talk about, you know, how the things that you've gone through, and get to share it with other people going through the same thing. And you'll get a lot of insight. And not to mention, a lot of times you're made to feel crazy. You get gaslit, and you're made to feel crazy, and you're going to find out that you're completely sane.
See, the thing is, you need support.
Yes.
If you're the codependent, you absolutely need support. You can't, if you don't have support, you're the wildebeest that's been separated from the pack, and now the hyenas are just going to start taking bites out of you. Right. And I've seen this before. I've seen it on both sides, and you know, you both need help, and love. to get through this. And don't be a lone ranger in this situation, because you don't want to end up looking back and having to just blame people like this situation. It is very unfortunate, and gosh, it's so sad, Barry.
It really is. And so I hope that we can find some healing through this. And I know that the relationships are even more fractured than they were. And as I said before, don't get sucked into the condemnation. If you need to slide somebody down the scale as far as the amount of participation you can have with that person, fine. Because if that's where the toxicity is, then leave it there. Just don't take it on yourself and continue to spread it.
Right on, man. Yeah.
All right. So,
well, God bless Lisa's family, and God bless you on this. This is the kind of thing that takes the whole family to be involved in, really love and prayers, and ask God for guidance on this. And that really works too, because he causes all things to work together. And sometimes you could just be in a conversation with somebody because you want to put yourself in there, and you say the magic word you have no idea you said, and that can be the thing that changes everything around. So God bless.
And it starts with you.
On that.
Starts with one person.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah. Okay. Just moving on. Some current events and stuff. For what I put in my notes, it seemed like it was several days ago, so it doesn't seem fresh. But Sam Bankman-Fried is now on trial.
Yes.
And wow, what a story that was. Even if you look at him and his so-called girlfriend / right-hand person or whatever that's turned on him, you look at, I see those two photos. It's like, how did anybody ever fall for this with these two kids?
That is such a good question. I mean, he is 30 years old. He doesn't look like a guy that 12. You would give $1 trillion to.
And they look like they smell. They both look like they smell.
They do. I hate to say that, but I mean, they don't look like, and I wouldn't trust that guy with $5. I mean,
I know.
And all these celebrities were, putting huge amounts of cash into this whole thing.
Oh, unbelievable amounts. And it was said, it's been rumored recently that he was in talks. This was right up until he got busted. So it never came to fruition, but he was trying to find a way to bribe Trump not to run for president. And he was asking, what is the price? And it was said to be about $5 billion. And he was worth something like 44 billion or something.
I can't imagine Trump not being bought off, though. I mean, it's hard to buy off.
It was a rumor that I thought was interesting.
That's the thing. Yeah. Crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The whole thing is crazy because you got this whole thing that the one company that he ran, but then you've got the sister company that was allowed to borrow money from the crypto company, and then they just borrowed they took all the money, and so that there wasn't any crypto money anymore. And then at the same time, all this money was being used to finance campaigns, mostly Democrat campaigns. And so
gave a lot to the Republicans too. He was hedging his bets so that he couldn't get busted.
And so you never know. It's yet to be seen. His strategy still might work here. And this reminds me of the whole Epstein thing. It's like, wow, there's this thing that's happening with our government in the background that our government is saying, no, that's ridiculous. This isn't actually happening.
Yeah.
But then more and more
that's not working anymore.
Yeah.
It's worked for decades.
No, you are doing that,
Yeah.
It's like the big bad wolf saying, I'm just a dog. I'm a friendly dog. Let's pet me. Why are you salivating?
Yeah, the truth is coming. It's bubbling to the top because of the internet and because of podcasts. It certainly isn't because of mainstream media, but the distrust, the warranted and earned distrust of our government is really, I think, coming to the surface big time.
Well, you know what? I've been thinking a lot about this, Barry, especially this past week. On October 4th, what was that? Wednesday, we had that test from FEMA that went out to all of our cell phones. Were you aware of that?
Oh yeah. Did
you get the test?
It scared the hell out of me. Yeah, because my phone was right by me. Yeah.
I think a lot of people that weren't expecting that actually got a little bit shocked. But I don't know if you saw anything about this leading up to the test, but there was a lot of scuttlebutt going on the internet about this test and how strange it is. And oh well,
I thought immediately, what are they preparing for? That's what I thought immediately, because I did not hear about it.
I think a lot of people were kind of caught off guard, and then it's like, wait a second, this is a national emergency system, and really the emergency broadcast systems, Barry, are all local. The national emergency broadcast system is fairly new. And so this is only the second time that they've actually done a test like this. The first one was about 5 years ago. But when this all came out, all of these different conspiracy theories started to happen. And basically, here's one that says it starts with a Tesla coil, throws in some testing done on carbon nanotubes, and ends up at some variation of, and that's how they'll activate the COVID vaccine chips. And
dude, I don't know what you're saying. What are you saying?
Okay, they're implying that when this test went out, the 5G network actually sent a code that implies that people who are vaccinated are going to somehow turn into zombies controlled by microchips or whatever other dehumanizes each other and divides each other. So this is, and Barry, this wasn't coming out from one person. This was coming out from a whole bunch of people were saying this kind of stuff that was going to happen, and to turn off your phones and put it inside the microwave. And I got to tell you, if you listen to some of these, it was kind of scary.
Well, I got to tell you, I always go with the simplest and most common sense thing. And this is what's getting me. Putin threatens the West with total nuclear destruction, leaving no chance of survival. This is what is scaring the hell out of me. And our government, just for the greed, just because they can sell a bunch of weapons and nukes and embezzle all of the money from the middle class here, they will bring us as close to the brink of nuclear war and hopefully not actually trigger it. Hopefully that's what bothers me.
Well, that's and I hear that. And I want to come back to this story about the 4th, because obviously nothing happened. As I was hearing these stories, it reminded me of Y2K and all the fear mongering that was done with Y2K. And then I started to really think about how this was Y2K a test, and really, when you think about how it was done, there's a movie called Office Space that I really like, and it's all about this Y2K company that came up. Well, these companies made millions and millions of dollars all the way up until January 1st of 2000. Then they all went defunct because nothing happened, right? And so all this money transfer happened because they scared the crap out of everybody. And then I start looking at some of the things that are happening today, like this thing where they scared everybody about this test. And I started thinking, is this we hear a lot about misinformation and disinformation, and for conservatives, it seems like stuff like this is the disinformation weapon being used against them. Because what we've seen is that usually in a conspiracy theory, there are seeds of truth in there. So let's put some conspiracy theories out there that don't have any seeds of truth, and let's screw everybody up. And so I was thinking about that and this whole zombie apocalypse thing. And go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Let me just do this here. Hold on just a second. Let me flip over here. So as I was thinking about that, I thought, gosh, is this like what are they doing here to mess us up? I hate that I have to think like that all the time, but I do. And so as crazy as that whole thing was on October 4th, here's a guy I've talked about before, Yuval Noah Harari. He is the
top advisor to Klaus Schwab. Oh my God.
For the World Economic Forum. And I just want you to hear some of the things that he says so that we can put what happened on October 4th into a little bit of perspective. Here we go.
Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. Data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships.
What?
By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life 4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed in the basic rules of the game of life. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution.
All right, we'll stop it there. He goes on and on. But when you listen to him, and this is the top advisor to Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, that theory of October 4th doesn't seem so crazy anymore, because these guys are consistently talking. That was 2018, so they've made big time strides since then, and they're talking about it all the time. And so, and he talks about how 5G can be used to implement this in conjunction with AI and quantum. And so we've got that going on. And, you know, you think about, gosh, you know, what does all of that mean? And then I've got this other thing, you know, speaking of conspiracy theories and how these things, we've got to just be careful, because, you know, let me ask you this. With everything that's happened over the last couple of years, doesn't that cause you to question almost everything that we've been told? Or are you finding yourself that way? Like, it's like, hey, I don't know. What about the lunar landing?
No, I don't question that.
You don't question that. A lot of people do. Let me just show you something on this, because I think it's an interesting thing. Here's something. Evidence proves one of the most impactful events in history was a lie. And what they're doing here is they're showing this footprint here that we've been shown all our lives, you know, the footprint on the moon, but it's also showing these are the boots these guys wore, and they're smooth. And so now they're saying, hey, look, this was all a sham. But then at the end of the article, what you find out is that these guys actually put booties over their boots in order to go out. And that's what you're seeing on the ground is the treads that they see. These are in the Smithsonian, but they had to leave those booties along with a whole bunch of other stuff on the moon in order to reduce the weight to take off and join the orbiting spacecraft. Okay, so there's a logical explanation to some of these things. I guess my point in showing these things is, boy, you don't know what to believe when you see these. It seems to me that conspiracy theories can have seeds of truth in them,
Mm-hmm.
but of course our enemies know that, and so they can place conspiracy theories out there that actually don't have seeds of truth to throw us off. It is a crazy, wacky world out there, man.
No, I get your point, and I'll put it, I think, into a more clear context, and that's with UFOs. I think that they're always putting out stories like recently. Okay, when they came off of the hearings and stuff that they just had a couple months ago,
yes,
then all of a sudden there's this story in like Las Vegas, somewhere in Nevada. This guy reports seeing this 10-foot tall alien. A couple of people.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
I just thought, oh my God, right there. There's a plant of such a stupid story out there. And what that does is like feed the ridicule to the whole thing. I think there's a lot of instances of those.
I think you're right about that too.
Well, you remember Bob Lazar. He was talking about how they were fed, the scientists working there in Area 51, trying to reverse engineer aircraft, alien aircraft, as he said. None of them were allowed to talk and compare notes, and they were all fed different bits of information that he was sure that if he went and told people on the outside, it was so that the government people would know it was him, because only he was fed that bit of misinformation.
Interesting.
Oh, wow. So manipulative, man.
Yeah.
It's conniving as hell.
It's dark.
It's dark.
It's really something. I mean, and gosh, we sure have been inundated with this whole, alien spacecraft thing and all. I have to say, Barry, it reminds me of exactly what I heard on the 4th. Like it seems like the same kind of voices that are talking about this. Our government, and even though we have experts from our government coming in and they're whistleblowers and they're saying these things, that could be a trick too. I mean, how do we trust these people?
I wouldn't be surprised if all of these, and boy, they're certainly out there. These UFOs, UAPs are out there, and they're doing things that defy physics as we know.
We don't know what they are.
Would not surprise me if they're all man-made. Would not surprise me.
Me neither.
It would mean that we got technology like that we can't even fathom. But it could
agree with that. And we've been talking about this. I mean, my thinking is that, and I always go back to the whole Tesla thing where he had this whole invention where
meaning Nikola Tesla, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Where he was going to be able to deliver energy to people really almost free. And and then all these mysterious things happened to him, and then all that stuff disappeared. And he was
a crackpot.
Yeah. And that there were very powerful entities that would be ruined had he come out with this invention. Gotcha. And so you got to get rid of this guy. And we know that this happens all the time. We see people disappear mysteriously all the time.
Yes.
And so could it be that they're using this? We don't know. And the thing is that when I hear these people talking about these spacecraft and they say it was non-human engineered, I mean, when you say it that way, it sounds like you're using a term so that it sounds like it's aliens, but it's not. I don't know. My BS meter is pinned into the red on this whole
thing. I just agree with you that we just don't know what to believe because they throw so much smoke out there.
They sure do.
But I'll say this too, with all we've recently discovered, I think even since just the launch of the James Webb? Yeah, James Webb telescope, we discovered 45 billion more additional solar systems, all of which equals trillions of planets, which equals out of those billions of Earth-like possibilities. I think it's really arrogant to think that we're the only life in the entire solar system. Wouldn't surprise me if life on Earth started with life coming in on meteorites and evolving from there. But God only knows. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything.
Well, one thing,
but I want to know more, man.
Of course. And, you know, I mean, we think about all these theories and, oh, they found water on Mars. That means there's life on Mars and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, we've never seen any instance of life spontaneously happening. And so, you know, this whole thing of if it's got water, that life naturally existed. I don't think
that's a given.
I don't think and when you really think about what is the spark of life, I mean, the only real explanation that we have is God. We don't seem to have the capacity to create life out of nothing, and we've never seen life created out of some type of chemical reaction or anything like that. So it brings you right back to there must be a God out there. That's what a lot of people come to. I mean,
well, here's a bridge. Here's a bridge for you from atheist point of view, which is not me. I believe in a higher power, but I'm saying from an atheist point of view to someone like me believes in a higher power to someone like you that's Christian. There was, I think I mentioned before, scientist, of course I don't remember his name. He was on Rogan who was arguing for intelligent design. And he said people would come out of the woodwork to argue with him, thinking that he's just saying, I can prove that God exists. He goes, you didn't even read my stuff. He goes, that's not what I said. He goes, intelligent design. He goes, I believe that there is a force in the universe that had to create life. And he goes, I didn't used to believe this, but as I studied science more and more, I came to believe this. He goes, it's like the gasoline engine. We have all the ingredients here on Earth, steel and rubber and all these different things that creates a gasoline engine. But it takes there's no way a gasoline engine is by sheer chance, even over 1 billion years, going to create itself. It had to be created by intelligence. It had to be shaped and put together and mixed with gasoline and a spark in the right way and harnessed in order to turn these different gears. I thought that was a really good analogy that he used. Well, that is how life had to be created too. And again, he's not talking about necessarily a Christian version of God, but that there is an intelligence in the world, in the universe as a whole. That the universe itself is an intelligence.
That's right. And you can see it in every aspect of nature. We can see an intelligent design there. Don't you think it's interesting that Yuval Harari used the term intelligent design in the clip that I just showed you?
It pricked my ears up right away.
Yes. Yeah, I knew it would. That's why I played it to that point, because there was like 5 more minutes, but I wanted you to hear that point because, you know, while I agree with you, Barry, that intelligent design does not mean the Christian God, but it does mean that there is a force that designed all of this that you could say is God. And what Yuval Harari is saying is we have God is obsolete and we are replacing God. There is no cloud in the sky where God is. We're the cloud in the sky.
Yeah.
And, you know, so in other words, and he goes on to say that this hacking of the human mind has the capability of controlling people's mind, will, and emotions. And that's your soul. And so in other words, you could say, and he's not saying this verbatim, but I'm God and I'm going to control your mind, will, and emotions. That's pretty crazy sounding.
But my mind went straight to, and I didn't realize that was from 2018, was it? I think. Since 2018, we've learned one of the biggest eye openers was that Social Dilemma special.
Yeah, it came out around the same time, right?
We were doing the podcast that we started in 2019. So I think it was 2020. It's 2023 now, about 3 years ago. Boy, did we talked about that a lot, and I learned a lot, and it's always on my mind.
They continue to talk about that.
They are controlling and manipulating.
They're doing it now. They're hacking. They're hijacking, brain hijacking.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of truth to that, and they're putting a lot of science behind it. You know,
right. Well, and I totally agree with you on this, but if you go into what Yuval Harari is saying, he's not actually talking about that. He's actually talking about, he goes into messenger
next level
RNA and how we can have these things inside of us that can be controlled through radio frequency.
Wow.
So he's actually talking about using 5G, using AI and quantum, and using messenger RNA, you know, these like vaccinations, and being able to control people, control how we feel, control our emotional level, and your body can give feedback to the network, like, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling that way, and then the network can be communicating back to you. A lot of people don't understand what 5G is compared to 4G, and let me just say that it's almost like the seismic scale, where you have there was a 5.0 earthquake compared to a 6.0 earthquake. When I lived in California, I learned about this. Like, well, that's just one click above the last earthquake. No, 5.1 is 10 times more than 5.0, and so on and so on. So by the time you get to 6, it's exponentially more powerful than a 5.0. This is the same thing with 4G versus 5G. You've got 4G, it's gigahertz, 5G, 5 gigahertz. You have an exponentially larger bandwidth to send information on with 5G. It's not just one little, here's another increment. No, it's 4G times 4G equals 5G. So now, as much information as we've been able to send through the internet or through the radio frequencies, cell towers, now we can send hundreds of times more information at just as quickly, if not quicker. Add AI and quantum to that, to 5G, and now you have the ability. It's like this: in your home, or in my home, I've got all these things hanging on my internet, right? Intranet, or the wireless. But if I put too much stuff on there, it slows down. Even our podcast gets screwed up by that. But 5G, now you have so much more bandwidth to put lots more stuff onto the network and have it operate at light speed. And therefore you could have all these nanobots on the thousands, hundreds, millions that could be controlled by this 5G network. And that's how messenger RNA works anyhow. And so this is the threat that we're talking about, but very few people understand the severity of that threat. And when you couple that with what you hear Yuval Harari saying, it's a serious thing that's happening, that people think, there's no way we could do that. No, the technology is here today.
I could wrap my head around that kind of easily, because I remember, this is probably still being done, but I saw one of those specials that, when they talk about MK Ultra, the experiments the government has done on our own people, and CIA, and various other ones, including lobotomies and things. I'm sure the US is doing that, but I know they were suspecting Russia of targeting people with sonic sound, like invisible, and make them sick.
It's an directed energy weapon. Which is a real thing, and it not only can make people sick, it can destroy aircraft, it can cause fires, it can blow things up. It's a use of energy.
But let me put it to you like this: let's even take nanobots and stuff like that out of the equation, and get back to what you said about being surrounded by all kinds of internet-driven devices, and our government can just tweak the frequency to make you feel better or feel worse. If a whole bunch of people, majority of the people, all of a sudden feeling worse, they're going to seek out ways to feel better. And so your behavior is very much controlled right there. If all of a sudden, all the same people, the majority of the country, is feeling much better, feeling really good, their behavior is also going to change exponentially. Now, in what ways? And you could be guided either way. If you're feeling really good or really bad, you're going to be seeking out something that is in accordance with that behavior. And so there's all kinds of things that they could do as a result. Certainly control the economy, for sure.
I mean, drive it that way. Yeah. It goes back to that video. I think you saw it too, the happiness machines.
Yes.
That whole concept of Ed Bernays and how he got us all into a consumer type of a society. And, you know, I'm going to have to wrap up, but this brings me to a final point here, which is the NFL and how they're using Taylor Swift and Deion Sanders. Well, I guess that's college, but how these people have become bigger than the game itself. And I mean, you know, I haven't really been following the NFL at all for years, but I'm hearing that Taylor Swift is now she's the draw for these games now, and not not the players, not football. And this is all a part of feminizing football. And I mean, I remember when Barack Obama came out several years right before the Super Bowl and said, if I had a son, I wouldn't let him play football. I knew they were going to ruin my NFL right then. I'm like, oh, stay away from it. But what do you think about that? I mean, I know you're a fan. What are you seeing? Because I read this article by Jason Whitlock, who I admire and, you know, I have a lot of respect for, but I don't watch it. What do you feel?
Well, I don't watch it a lot anymore. When they got in Cleveland, when they got rid of Baker Mayfield, broke everyone's heart with that, and then did the world's dumbest, most gigantic deal to bring in Watson here, who, you know, he's accused, not even accused, guilty of doing all this massage stuff, creepy sex stuff, bordering on rapey, right? And that's horrible. Yeah, they really messed up the Browns there. And so as a result, I've been I watch less and less football. I care less and less. And it seems a little bit silly to me that there's so much money being thrown around. But anyways, yes, I see the constant articles with Taylor Swift with her mouth wide open all the time at these football games and stuff. In fact, this morning I saw an article, they interviewed what's his name? Kelsey, his mom. And the whole thing was shaped like she seemed less than thrilled when asked about meeting Taylor Swift.
I heard that too.
Yeah. It was okay. You know,
I heard the body language of those two sitting next to each other, and the audience was, you could see that like she was, she was back to back, like not looking at her.
Look, Taylor Swift.
I don't know why. Why do I know this? I'm not even watching this.
Exactly.
It's so permeating.
Yeah, I don't know any of her songs or anything. She seems like a sweet person.
I hear she's a great performer.
I mean, her tour, I think, is record breaking and stuff, and all fine. But boy, she seems like she can't get enough of the spotlight at the same time.
Now, I think that's an addiction right there.
So, I mean, I don't know. It's all a little bit of a turnoff to me, but I have no ill feelings. I mean, all of her highly publicized relationships. I mean, this poor guy, he's going to be fodder for her next album. And
I mean, come on, he is. There's going to be a whole. That's funny. Okay, let me just show you. I have one last thing I want to show here. See if I can pull it up. Oh, here it is. What do you think about this?
Well, you know what? We didn't talk about McCarthy, the whole McCarthy thing.
That's why I'm showing this, is that they're talking about putting Trump in as Speaker of the House. Can you imagine him standing behind Biden like that at the next State of the Union?
No, I couldn't. I think he would just push Biden out of the way and sit down and start talking. You know he would.
I think so too. I just, the picture is funny to me.
It is.
Especially since it was Nancy Pelosi sitting in that seat who ripped up his State of the Union speech. And he could be the one sitting there. I don't think that's going to happen. If I were Trump, I wouldn't do it. But
let me ask you just briefly. So what do you think about that? Matt Gaetz made a big spiel, a big to-do about saying that McCarthy was bought off by special interest groups and lobbyists and stuff like that. Could be truth to that. I think they're all bought off myself. But then the other side of it is, of course, the Republican Party is doing the bidding of the Democrats, it seems. And then we're get right back to the great big divide, choose a side, dig your heels in. And
it's ugly. I mean, it's ugly what's happened here. McCarthy would not have been my choice. I think I would have gone with Jim Jordan right from the get-go here, and I think that's what's going to happen. But when I really dug into it to understand, I got where Matt Gaetz was coming from, but it was only him and 8 other Republicans, and and then all of the Democrats voted to get rid of McCarthy. So if McCarthy was their plant, why would they vote to get rid of him? That's one question. And then, but then you have to realize that, when he came in, his whole promise to the Republicans was that he would stand against the spending spree that's going on, especially when it came to Ukraine.
Yes.
And he didn't do that. Right. And in fact, he made it so that there was an unlimited amount of money that could go into Ukraine.
This is killing me.
And that's exactly what Gaetz was standing for. I agree with Gaetz, but I find it interesting that only 8 other Republicans were in on this to get rid of him. And I think maybe it's because they were afraid of the next election and what might happen with the optics of letting the government shut down, which is very ugly. And I would blame McCarthy on that too, because he should have been on all over these spending things long before that. And here he is doing deals with Biden and things like that to spend. And look, to Gaetz's point, we're $33 trillion in debt right now.
Yes.
I mean, when Obama took over back in 2008, we were just around $10 trillion in debt, which was astronomical.
Yes.
Now, I mean, and at the same time, they said Obama drew up so much debt, more debt than all the other presidents put together had drawn. And now we're 3 times more than that in just 8 years or whatever, 10 years. It's not sustainable. And this is the new tax that's on us here, because in order to sustain this,
inflation.
Biden's campaign promise was that he wasn't going to tax anybody making $400K or less.
Yes, he did.
The fact is that we're going to the supermarket and we're spending at least twice as much as we ever spent.
Inflation is a tax that they don't talk about.
The tax, yeah, and they keep doing more. I mean, you go back to Biden's the debt forgiveness for student loans.
Yes.
The Supreme Court came out and said you're not allowed to do that. It's unconstitutional. And do you know what? He's still doing it. He's forgiven another like $33 billion in debt. Where does that money come from? They got to print it.
Right.
And there's the new tax. Yeah. I mean, there's another new tax. And so we keep going on. In fact, I think, there's this whole impeachment inquiry going on. Actually, spending $33 billion on something you're not allowed to spend money on, according to the Supreme Court, is an impeachable offense.
I totally agree.
Just go after that, and you'll be done.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I totally agree. And then Nancy Pelosi got kicked out of her office.
Yeah, what's up with that? I don't know what to say about that.
I know, I don't either.
It seemed a little petty to me, like, but it was a result of this whole changing of the guard, and boy, everybody's angry now. The Republicans look like they're idiots.
Yes.
And the Democrats are smugly smiling about this whole thing. Meanwhile, we've got this in this invasion happening at the border. All our cities are jacked up, and you look at like New York and Chicago, and you see the troubles that are happening there, but you don't see the troubles really that are happening in Texas or any of the border states, like here in Tucson, where all these people, they're coming through like a sieve.
Yes.
And did you hear yesterday where Biden is going to start building the wall?
He said against his will.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there. Who pushed him? Who pushed him?
I mean, this is so devastating what's happening across the country right now, that I believe these mayors are complaining so much in the red cities that he had to come up with a way to put that wall in there and say that his hands were tied. Yeah. But we already know it was a big lie about the appropriation, because we already know that he sold off a big part of the fence, $300 million worth of the fence he sold already for $2 million. Think about that. Those are our tax dollars we spent $300 million on, and he cashed it in for $2 million.
Nice deal.
Where's our refund?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Is that
I'm still reeling over Afghanistan.
Me too.
Yeah.
Billions and billions of equipment left over there that are now being used against innocent people in Afghanistan.
This country's mess, man.
We got to get out of Ukraine, is what I think. Like, quit spending all that money. Like, Maria Andronovich, now is the ambassador. Zelensky made her the ambassador for children there. She's the one that does the spirit cooking here, where she's got those cakes that look like humans, like kids with blood all over them, that all the celebrities come to. Maria Andronovich, he made her the ambassador to kids. When he was here in America 2 weeks ago, that was the announcement he made. She's a Satanist. Why would you do that? And this is what I'm saying. If you do that, why are we sending all this money over to this guy? It doesn't make any sense.
No, that's just the military industrial complex. They're just bleeding us dry.
Yeah. And then when you start to, as we've talked about, look at where the tentacles go from the military industrial complex. It goes right to these people in the WEF. Yuval Harari. That's where the money, the big part of that money, is coming into them from there. And anyway, it's all connected.
Okay, as we wind up, I wanted to mention I saw a great movie the other night on Amazon Prime. Anybody can watch this.
Oh, cool.
It's called Solace. Now, I will say,
gotta write this down.
Yeah, you may not like it. It's about a serial killer and great acting. Oh my God. So the guy that was on Walking Dead playing Negan. I can't think of his name right now. He's a dean. I can't think of anybody right now. Hannibal Lecter. He's in it. Colin Farrell. He's in it. Okay. He's tremendous. He borders on overacting at all times, but I think that's in a good way because he's really, really captivating. There's one scene, he's not even in it until at least halfway through the movie, but there's a long scene where he and who's Hannibal Lecter? What's his name? Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins.
I'm glad you thought of it. I never would.
Colin Farrell, Anthony Hopkins are sitting in like a restaurant right across from each other. And dude, the acting there, they have this dialogue for several minutes. The acting is amazing throughout the whole movie, but it's about psychics. So Anthony Hopkins is an old psychic. He's retired. He gets pulled out of retirement by, what's his name? Dean, who does an amazing acting job in this too. Abby Cornish plays, his partner. So they're two cops. They pull Anthony Hopkins as a psychic out of retirement. He's got all kinds of trauma going on because they're tracking down the serial killer who's just, doing some weird stuff. And anyways, turns out, I'm not giving away too much here, but turns out the serial killer is a psychic too, of greater ability than Anthony Hopkins. And it becomes a real mind game between these two psychics because they're both seeing what can happen in the future. And so if you're into that, I needed to tell you that much because a lot of people like Lisa would not like that. So if you're into what I said, check that movie out. I loved it. I could watch it again.
That sounds actually pretty good to me. That is,
if you like great acting.
Yeah, I like great acting. I also like movies where there's a little bit of a suspense, like what's going to happen. And there's a moral
dilemma to it. There's like a philosophical moral dilemma to it. I don't think I'm going to give away too much when I say the psychic serial killer sees himself as a mercy killer. Because he sees these people having horrific, terrifying deaths.
Oh, because of I see. Now, I think that was a good thing to add in there. That actually makes it even more interesting.
It'll leave you talking about the moral dilemma.
So Saturday night or Sunday morning?
Saturday night movie for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Versus Sunday morning. No, it's not a Disney. It's not an old style Disney flick.
I hear you. Good.
It's a little dark.
Good review. I like that a lot.
I wish I would have had my graphic ready. I haven't used that forever.
We haven't. And I forgot for a while.
Yeah.
But it's always good to hear about
I love a good movie review or TV show, or I want to find a new TV show like Schitt's Creek. That was so fun to watch for a while there.
Okay, well, I have one that my son recommended to me, and this one isn't for everyone, but if you're a dude and you like ridiculously stupid dude humor, like I do, you'll like this. It's called Workaholics, and I started with it's got several seasons to it. So
I've never heard of it.
Here. I thought I just pulled it up, but I actually pulled up the definition of workaholics. Hold on a second.
What channel? Where do you find
this? I'm going to tell you here. Here it is, a TV series. Blah blah blah. Workaholics. There it is. It's a single camera comedy featuring three friends who work together as telemarketers from 9 to 5 and live together from 9 to 5. This is these. Let me show you a little. See if I can pull up the little video that I'm showing right here.
Oh, the trailer?
Yeah, it's just, this is the website or the thing for it. See, these three guys are ridiculous, okay? And they're just so petty, and they're young guys that, you know, they're working together. And this is the kind of humor that you don't have to think a lot about. It's just stupid, ridiculous. I love the actors in this. And it's just fun. It's a little risque.
Watch on Paramount.
Paramount or Hulu.
Prime Video channels fit with Prime Video channels. I'd have to look it up. I like something like that.
It's been out for a while. It's gonna make you laugh. You're gonna feel like, you know, you'll laugh. You'll feel good at the end. It's nothing serious. This is one of those series where you just get away from the world for a while.
Yeah.
And then they're half-hour shows, and so you could watch like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
I've been watching.
I like something like
that.
It's
been fun. It's been really fun.
It reminds me a little bit of Trailer Park Boys. I think that's on Netflix. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of that before, but I
really liked it.
Yeah, you know what? This is I know that once there seems to be a lot of seasons, but I know when I get to the end, it's going to be like, oh, I'm so bummed that was over.
Right. I lost you. Where did you go? There you are. Okay.
Here I am.
My computer just switched over to something else. Yeah. Trailer Park Boys is interesting. It's a Canadian shot thing. It's set in Nova Scotia. I never knew anything about Nova Scotia, where it is and everything. I thought it seemed kind of exotic. God, it's really dismal. It's really cloudy, and it looks like a trailer park. I mean, because they shot all around all the time. It looked really dismal, but it was really just light, just like that. Just three guys for the most part doing stupid stuff. They're always smoking pot, getting into trouble. Their trailer park, like they have the warden or whatever he's called, the big guy at the trailer park who's always they're always getting in trouble with and stuff. It's absolutely silly. Just really
it's
silly.
Like, you know, when you got out of college and you couldn't really afford to move into your own place. So you moved in with a couple of buddies, but you're all going to work, and you know, then you have these parties where you trash your own house, and, you know, and you're going to work and you're wearing this cheap clothing because that's all you can afford. You got a hoopty as a car, and you know, and you got your whole life revolves around going to bars and meeting girls and having your buddies around, and that's what these guys are doing. And it's just it's an escape. It's fun.
I'll look for it.
It's a cool little show there.
Cool. Glad you shared.
Yeah. A good place to wrap up here.
Yes. Agreed. Like ending on a very light note like that. Very productive. Really enjoyed the show, man. A lot of
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And it started out like I didn't know where we're going with it, and it went all kinds of different directions. Cool. Very fun.
I loved it, man. I hope you have a great weekend, Barry.
Yeah, you too, buddy. Supposed to be crappy weather here. What's that? Hey, what's the temperature like over there these days?
Well, you know, we've had some really good weather over here this week. A couple of times it only got up to like 80 degrees. Yesterday it was 100 though. I'm hoping to be able to go on my first motorcycle ride of the season since June. I haven't ridden since June. It's too hot. I mean, it's not fun to be on a motorcycle when you feel like you're going to die from heat exhaustion. So
sure.
Hopefully I could get on, and I've learned about some new rides that are supposed to be absolutely beautiful. So
cool.
We'll see what happens.
I hope you do. We've had beautiful weather through this time of October, and then the bottom's supposed to fall out tomorrow, like be a high of 55 or something like that, and cloudy. So that's a change. It's been 78 and sunny and all this for quite some time. It's been beautiful.
It's almost time to get the home fires going.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a good time to start watching some TV is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Hey, have a good one, man.
Yeah, you too. Have a great weekend. Hey, guys, share our show. Please go to over50startingover.com, sign up, get all this dropped in your email box as it happens.
Right on.
All right, have a good